Standard 3.2 meets, I can draw a free body diagram with forces in 2 dimensions. A ball is falling straight down after being thrown upward. The ball is accelerating at 5 meters per second squared. A net force of 3 newtons downward is acting on the ball, as well as a force of an air resistance force with 7 Newton value. Draw a free body diagram of the ball. So let's start by first just drawing the ball. Okay. Now I'm going to list some information that I know about it. I know that it has an acceleration of 5 meters per second squared. I know that there's a net force, so F net of 3 newtons, and I know that this is in the downward direction. I know that there's a force of air resistance equal to 7 newtons. So the first thing I'm going to do is remember that when I have an object that's falling, right, the only forces acting on it are the downward force and any air resistance the opposite direction in which it's falling. If it's falling straight down, I know that my air resistance force, I'm going to label that AR, is going to have an upward direction. I also know from the problem that it's 7 newtons. So air resistance is equal to 7 newtons. The next thing I know is that I have a downward force. And this downward force needs to have a value 3 larger than my air resistance. The reason that's true is because I need a net force of 3 newtons. Okay? That means that whatever cancels out in the upward and the downward direction, there needs to be an excess of 3 in the down direction. If I match these and make this downward force 7, then I have a net force of 0. If I make the downward force 5, I have a net force of 2. But that 2 is in the upward direction. If I make my downward force 10 newtons, I have a difference between the two of these of 3. That 3 extra newtons is in the downward direction. So another thing we can do with that downward force is understand what it is that's pulling it down. Really, what we want to call that downward force is weight. Weight is what pulls an object down. It's the force of gravity on the object.